Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of To the Power of N, Season 2. And Season 2 is all about diversity and networking. And I am honored, motivated, inspired to talk about our speaker today, Sarena Lin. Sarena and I met 10 years back at an event. At that point in time, she was a VP of strategy at an organization. Let's just say you will have to look at her profile. And just looking at her career trajectory for the last 10 years, is been amazing. But I'm going to ask you the same two key questions that I ask of our guest is what are your tips and tricks for networking and how has that helped you? Welcome to the show, Sarena.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much, Nash. And it's great to reconnect after 10 years, isn't it? And maybe that's a great place to start about networking. In some ways, that's what it is, right? It is about the ability to hopefully create long-lasting connections that you never know how and when it might come back and support you in any way. And I think, to me, when you first reached out to me about networking, the first word that came to mind is networking is authentic, right? It's authenticity. And to me, what it means is when I first started working, I always thought networking is a dirty word, that, it seems like work, that I don't enjoy doing, right? Why do I have to spend time doing things that I don't see value? But ultimately, what I see is it's a great way, especially for us who are very focused on the depth of expertise of certain field, to say, how do I expand my horizon? And how do I leverage as well as support other people so I can build my own vantage point so that I get a much higher view of the world. So to me, it need to come from your own desire and interest in doing that. And I think one example of that is, I recently attended a conference and it's all about AI, how AI is going to change an organization. And I found it so interesting that I signed up and attended. And I had this fantastic conversation with a professor who teaches AI here in Germany. And then just launched into a wonderful conversation about, how do we co-create and really think about how AI is going to impact organizations as a whole. And we basically promised that we're going to have follow-on conversations, and who knows where that collaboration might lead. That's just one example of it. But I think another aspect about networking, when you say what are the tips, is don't think about networking as physical networking only. I think 10, 20 years ago, people think about networking as going to conferences and exchange business cards, right? Mm-hmm. And that's absolutely, to me, I hate that. I think that's absolutely not networking at all. But rather, it is finding the platform you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And what I have found, as an example, as you and I reconnected on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a great platform for networking. Yeah, and because this is a place where you can pick and choose the topics that interest you, pick and choose the people you want to associate with, and more importantly, pick and choose the network you want to maintain. So this becomes a fantastic platform to share your views, as well as having connections and conversations. And through LinkedIn, the truth is, these days I get a lot of private, direct messages on LinkedIn, mm-hmm. people asking for tips and tricks and what have you. And oftentimes, there are people who are so authentic in their requests, and I take them as mentees and I have mentorship calls with them. And the thing about those calls, from their perspective, it might seem like a networking, which is probably the case. But from my perspective, I also gain a lot from those conversations because I get to know how, continue to expand my view in terms of how other people are thinking about various things and various pieces. So I think having built your own network or finding your own platform that you're comfortable with, such as LinkedIn, is one thing about networking. What are you most comfortable with? So that's probably the second tip. I think the third one is when we talk about being authentic, a network ultimately is about human connection. So the question is, how do you show that you genuinely care about another person, right? It is not about how are you, how's the weather, how's your job, but do you really listen and understand what is with this person so that you can have a real conversation that goes beyond the superficial. And here's an example. I was another conference not too long ago where I had dinner with the keynote speaker, and the day prior, we sat down, we started having conversation, and I just, I was so intrigued by his career journey. And I asked him about how he's doing in terms of leading his team that's much older than him. I asked him about how he's going to continue to grow his business. And we launched into this fantastic dinner conversation. And then the very next day, after his keynote, he actually came to me and asked me if I can mentor him. And I was so flattered. I was so flattered.
Amazing.
And again, this and this is not just for him, because I think it's absolutely fantastic for me as well to continue to build my own understanding and horizon into different fields and that I don't know. And I think that's the power of what this is. The networking, it's the willingness to be open to have these kind of true human connections, right? And be authentic about it, because you never know where it leads.
So thank you so much, Sarena, for sharing your time, your wisdom with us. Truly appreciate it. I'm sure our listeners, our viewers are going to learn a lot from you. Thank you again, Sarena, for being on the show. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me, Nash. Really enjoyed it.